Watch this.
Good evening, folks. We're changing things up on how we do things on the 208 here on Friday evenings. Listen to this. We want to take some time on Fridays from now on to share some of the big stories that you, the viewers, had a lot to say about. On Fridays, this is your home for catching up on the week that was in Treasure Valley and the state of Idaho. We're going to answer some of your questions that we didn't get to this week. We're going to update you on some of your favorite 208 stories and dive in depth into topics that you want to hear more on. And this week, one of those major talkers that we're going to kick off the show with, the major tax cut being discussed at the Idaho State House. We've seen a lot of questions and comments on this one. So let's spell it all out for you together. So first, to begin our show, we're going to take a look at the ins and outs of the much talked about Idaho tax bill. Idaho lawmakers hit the ground running this week, and already they have a major tax bill to debate. Idaho Republicans are touting this new legislation as a simple give back and tax cut for Idahoans as the state sits on millions and millions in budget surplus dollars.
We've got inflation going crazy across the nation and across the state. It's important to get this money back to the people.
House Majority Leader Republican Mike Moyle is one of the sponsors of the tax bill. He says the bill will consolidate Idaho's income tax brackets from 5 down to 4 with the new lower rates of 1%, 3%, 4.5%, and 6% respectively for each bracket. Now, the highest tax bracket will be for people who make $5,000 and more. The bill would also lower the corporate income tax from 6.5% to 6%, and it also provides a one-time income tax rebate of $350 million, returning approximately 12% of Idaho taxes paid in 2020, or $75 for each taxpayer independent, whatever amount is greater.
Most people in Idaho are in that upper bracket, so we're taking care of most Idahoans with that bill. But it is, some people don't pay any taxes. It makes it hard to give back money when they don't pay taxes. That's why the bill's written the way it is, though. We do give them $75 for every man, woman, and child if they don't pay taxes.
Representative Moyle says with the budget surplus, Republicans simply want to give Idahoans their tax dollars back.
Get it to their hands so they can use it to kind of offset some of the costs that are going up now.
Idaho Democrats say they appreciate the idea, but that this tax bill doesn't help those who need it most.
Now we have an opportunity to prioritize working Idahoans and bolstering the middle class, and this tax bill would squander that opportunity.
Assistant House Minority Leader, Democrat Lauren Necochea says the cuts would direct the largest benefits to the top of the income spectrum.
Idaho Democrats would love to see us take those dollars that we have that are available and put them into property tax reduction, and would also want to have a conversation about repealing the sales tax on groceries.
Necochea adds that the tax brackets proposed don't really translate to everyone giving a fair share.
Yeah, there's no reason why a millionaire should pay the same percentage of their tax as a teacher. And we would absolutely support expanding those tax brackets to make those adjustments.
Every man, woman, and child is going to get something. It's a good bill, and it's going to lower our tax rates, makes us more competitive nationwide. It's going to help the state of Idaho look better to bring businesses here, and it's going to help people stay in their homes and jobs and work here and stay here for their lives. It's going to make it better for Idahoans, which is a good thing.
Idaho Democrats argue the surplus being used for this cut really isn't a surplus, but instead the result of bad policies and investments.
We underfund a lot of the things that local government has to do and that schools have to do. So if we put more of that state funding and directed it to schools and local governments, we could reduce property taxes substantially, and that's what Idahoans are asking for.
Moyle says it doesn't have to be one or the other.
There's enough to do a lot of things that need to be done and want to be done for a long time.
And after a passionate and extended debate this week, the tax bill has now passed the Idaho House, essentially on a party line vote, Republicans supporting it, except for one. So it is now on to the Idaho Senate. And we spoke to House lawmakers for their take on the tax bill after it passed. And Republicans are applauding it, Dems raising some major questions. First, House Speaker Scott Betke, a Republican, tells me that lawmakers in the Republican Party, they feel like this is a good compromise on the tax bill, and they say it's really in step with Governor Little's idea on this topic.
We came with record surpluses. That money came from you, and to give it back, that which don't need to run the essential services, it needs to be back in your pocket, not sitting in some account. Now, that's not to say that that we won't take care of business, and that we will, so we're not going to let the roads and bridges lapse, as was alleged maybe. We're not, we're going to take care of schools this year too.
Idaho Democrats are asking, is this really what Idahoans want? Critics of the tax bill, mostly Democrats at the State House, say that the money being given back, again, $600 million overall, well, they argue that that money could be put towards valuable state programs that need more funding, like education and infrastructure. Well, I spoke with House Minority Leader Alana Rubel earlier today. Here are her thoughts on the topic.
I suppose we probably could give all the tax cuts we want. We just have to let a few bridges fall down, but we don't want to do that. This really makes it impossible for, we think, a lot of other priorities to be pursued that, frankly, we think would help Idahoans a lot more and are a lot more in line with what Idahoans are telling us they want to see happen. I've heard from a lot of people about getting rid of the grocery tax and about lowering property taxes. I have heard from nobody saying they think our top priority should be to send $13,000 checks to millionaires.
So the tax bill now moves to the Idaho Senate, which would be the final hurdle that it would need to clear before the bill could possibly end up on Governor Little's desk. Republican leadership at the State House tells me this week that if this bill clears the Senate, they expect that Governor Little would sign the bill into law. It brings us to a viewer question about what would happen if this law passes. Jim R. writes to the 208 asking, will Social Security recipients get a $75 rebate since we don't pay any taxes? And you heard Representative Moyle reference this in the story. He says, you know, it's hard to give people money back who don't pay taxes. And there are people, for example, that are on Social Security. So the quick answer for you, Jim, yes. The answer to your question is yes. If passed, the tax rebates, again, would be for 12% of an individual's 2020 Idaho personal income tax return, or $75 for each taxpayer and dependent, whatever amount is greater. So, for example, if you and your wife or you and your husband, you're both at home living on Social Security, you don't have other income, and you file your taxes, you would each get $75 here. But a big key everyone needs to remember, make sure you're caught up on your taxes. April is right around the corner. Another big talker this week, add the words legislation. Since 2006, a group of Idahoans have led the charge to add 4 words to Idaho's Human Rights Act: sexual orientation and gender identity. As in Idaho Code 67-5901, to secure for all individuals within the state freedom from discrimination because of race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or national origin or disability in connection with employment, public accommodations, and real property transactions. Now this year number 16, Idahoans are still fighting to add those words. There has been some progress made in the last decade and a half. Some critics in counties like Ada County and Boise and Nampa have outlawed that kind of discrimination, but it still remains legal in the state of Idaho for a business to refuse to serve or a landlord refuse to rent to someone who is LGBTQ. The last time a committee took up add the words, testimony lasted for days, but the bill itself failed to pass along party lines. But every year, someone has tried to get the idea taken up again. Unfortunately, this year, that legislation likely will never see the light of day. Representative John McCrotzy did introduce a personal bill on Monday, MLK Day and Human Rights Day, on the House floor. But personal bills typically don't get a public hearing for the most part. And Representative McCrotzy told us, though, that he knows the bill likely won't get a hearing, but his goal is to keep it going and to keep it on everyone's mind. Well, we wanted to know, after 16 years and 7 years since the last public hearing on the idea, what's it going to take for Idaho to add the words?
You know, it's going to take a number of things. Some of it is going to take more conversations. This is the bill that we had the hearing on 7 years ago during my first session in the legislature. Maybe this isn't the right bill, but we need to at least talk about what is it about this bill that gives people angst. If it's the overall concept, then obviously that becomes a non-starter. But
I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around this idea that it's not the right bill. It's literally adding 4 words to an already existing law. What more could be? I mean, it seems so simple.
It should be really simple. You know, if we don't have the conversation, then no, it's not going to do anything.
If you think they were to come up with a bill this session that would add the 2 words vaccination status to the Idaho Human Rights Bill, what are the chances that would pass?
That's an interesting question, and I think that was actually posed in the last session. Yeah, that's a great question.
maybe it will be answered later on this legislative session.
That's entirely a possibility. And, if we can have that conversation, then I hope we can have this conversation as well.
So after that story aired this week, we got a lot of comments on all sides, and we didn't have time to get to them all. So we're going to share what you had to say on this topic. And we'll start with Arnie in Eagle. Arnie says, 4 little words, why so much fear in Idaho, like scared little kids, so afraid. I thought this was Idaho, where we valued people, all people. Kurt in Nampa disagrees, saying, quote, I will choose who I rent to, don't add the words. David says, my son is transgender. He was born and bred in Idaho. Bright, considerate, giving. Getting his college education, plans to be an animal behaviorist. Not sure why our legislators wouldn't want to fully protect his rights. Disappointing. And finally, Jim in Boise sums it up, saying, quote, add the words, they'll legalize marijuana in Idaho before they add those 4 words, and that ain't happening here. That's Jim in Boise. Still no word on if this year's bill will be assigned to a committee or get a hearing, but as always, we will keep you updated on the action at the State House. Mentioned at the top of the show that we are changing things up on how we do the 208 here on Fridays for you. And we wanted to take the time to share some of the stories that you had a lot to say about. And we wanted to show people who might have missed it. And boy, did you have a lot to say about this next story. It's all about a Boise kid who put the prosperity of his pros in his own hands, and then quite literally on the library shelf himself, or his self, as he says. Brian Holmes introduces us to 8-year-old Dillon Helbig.
Ada Lake Hazel, this is Tara. How can I help you?
The Lake Hazel branch of the Ada County Library
What's the name of it?
is a bastion for books.
I think it's between 40 and 50,000 books at this location. We have books for adults, books for children, books for kids that are learning to read, picture books. So yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Which is why 8-year-olds like Dillon Helbig
This is your library.
Yes.
feel right at home.
Well, not like my library, but I don't own it.
Except Dillon does possess a capacity for creativity.
And then this is the part where Santa comes.
Dillon
I like the pictures.
likes to write his own books.
One day in winter,
Yeah.
it was Christmas.
So he has been writing books since he was about 5 years old.
His latest,
It's The Adventures of Dillon Helbig's Christmas.
he finished last month.
That's you.
Yeah. By Dillon Helbig himself.
Taking an empty journal, a gift from his grandma,
And me unwrapping a Nerf gun.
and filling it in just 2 days.
Even though it has 81 pages.
So you're in the book.
Yes, I am in the book.
Who else is in the book?
My mom,
Who else?
Santa,
Who else?
a giant turkey.
Okay, so what does Dillon do in the book?
So first he decorates the tree.
And the star has a bomb.
No, I think someone overnight put a bomb in there and it just exploded.
And
I get sucked into the portal and I go into the very first Thanksgiving.
Ah, the giant turkey.
Everything about it was a bit crazy.
Got it.
I know some of the words.
Writing a book.
Yeah, because some of the words are my sight words.
Wasn't what impressed his mom the most.
So this one I just figured was like any other one that he has written.
It was what Dillon did with his book that caught her by surprise.
I didn't know this was his ultimate plan.
His plan, he put in play days later.
I've been wanting to put a book in a library since I was 5.
But that takes editors and publishers and distributors, doesn't it?
You know, you can't just put your book on the shelf.
Or can you? Well, Dillon did.
There was a lot of librarians that I had to get past, so do you know what I did?
What'd you do?
I covered this part and covered the back with my body and just snuck it in like this. I came in running, and then I started to walk. And then I came in this aisle. This aisle. And then I put my book right here.
Complete with stickers on the spine, so it would look like it belonged.
And the next time I came back, it was gone.
That night at home, he told his mom.
I thought that we had lost it, you know, and I figured somebody would probably find it and put it in lost and found.
I think my mom called the library.
His parents were worried that we would find his book and we would get rid of it, which was an unfounded fear.
Because if there's ever a place a book would be safe, it would be here.
True.
Well, they found it.
I think it was in our stories section.
And the librarians?
Every page is illustrated.
Loved it.
Yeah, and it's a good story.
And they wanted it.
Dillon's book definitely fit all of the criteria that we would look for to include a book in our collection.
So with permission, they processed it, put on the proper stickers, and now, The Adventures of Dillon Helbig's Christmas
by Dillon himself
is a full-fledged library book.
Now it's in the system. Anybody with a library card can check out the book. You may have to wait a few weeks at this point.
There's actually a waiting list. People want to check it out. So there's like 4 people in line. And it's just like mind-blowing.
Chapter 4.
Not bad for an 8-year-old who's been waiting to get a book in the library since he was 5.
And now I did it.
Yeah, it's not the normal process for including a book into a library collection, but in this scenario, it worked for Dillon.
And he puts his mind to something and he makes it happen, so.
I always be sneaky, like how I get chocolate.
Doesn't surprise me at all that he did this.
And this is page 81. We'll be right back in the next book. The end.
The next book, we'll have to keep everyone posted when that comes out. The King of Sneaky Style, that kid's going places. Dillon was also awarded the first ever Houdini Award for young writers, and Houdini is the library mascot, an owl who represents curiosity and wisdom. And good news, Dillon has plans for a sequel, as you heard. Not sure if it will get the go-ahead to go right to the library shelf, but we will see and keep you updated. But if you're looking to check out The Adventures of Dillon Helbig's Christmas, by Dillon himself, it is now a fixture on the graphic novel shelves, but again, you may have to wait in line. There's plenty of demand. We did hear from Dillon's mom, and she says as of right now, there are more than 35 people waiting to check out his book, including one person who is in Austin, Texas. An unbelievable development here. We will be right back after this. Some kids dream of riding the Zamboni at a Steelheads game, and some kids dream of playing hockey or skating. I dreamed of naming my little sister Zamboni. That is a true story. Now, one Boise family is making those dreams come true right now in their backyard. They have their own Zamboni. Check this out. Nick Scott has been building his very own snow park and ice rink in his backyard every winter since 2011. Now this year, you can see he's constructed an ice rink equipped with lights and a sound system, and boy, would I like to visit. Now, the part that caught our eyes, though, was the mini Zamboni driver, Nika Nikaki. And he posted this to our Idaho Weather Watch's Facebook group, saying that 15-year-old Zamboni driver is on point tonight. And Nick says that Nika Kai loves to ride the Zamboni. She can't skate yet, so she enjoys this fun way of getting out on the ice with her older sisters. Speaking of her sisters, Nick says that since COVID has closed the local rinks, his oldest has a place to now practice and play hockey this winter. And some say that some years it's too warm to keep the rink frozen, but this year the temps at night have been cold enough to keep it solid during the day. By the way, Nick's house is the neighborhood hangout, he tells us. He does big things for Halloween and Christmas as well. A few changes happening today on the 208. We told you we're updating our Friday shows to be more interactive, so answering more comments and questions you sent to us throughout the week. So we decided today that we would bring back a fan favorite, something we haven't done in a few months, but we're only doing it because Taylor sent us this text. Taylor says, "Can we see some cute animals?" Well, you know how much we love our cute animals here on the 208, so we're bringing back the 2Mo8. If you remember, we introduced you to Mo the Basset Hound late last year. He was just a tiny little guy then, but now he's grown. He ain't so little no mo. And Mo is now 5 months old, and we're told he's becoming more like a toddler every single day. This was him this week chasing an itch he couldn't scratch. Anyone else have that Dead or Alive song stuck in their head right now? It goes round and round and round. I'm told this goes forever. You could watch this forever. We'll be right back. Before we get to your comments, congratulations are in order. Brian Holmes and I agreed this week that a background in this Zoom interview was probably the highest tier aesthetic that we've had from a Zoom interview since COVID began early 2020. Now, during COVID, we've seen a lot of work from home interviews, but this one with Beth Oppenheimer, we thought she had the absolute best Zoom background. And guess what? People agreed with us because it caught the attention of a popular Twitter account called Room Rater. It's an account with more than 409,000 followers, and it rates the backgrounds of Zoom interviews on television segments across the entire world. They said in their tweet, "Great art space room, depth, plant work, and more art, delightful, 10 out of 10. So congratulations to Miss Oppenheimer. And if you've seen any memorable Zoom backgrounds on this show, anything other than my apartment that really stuck out to you, I'm curious what you thought. So text them into us. We'd love to hear your thoughts. This is a personal favorite of mine, Zoom background from Kyle Clark in Denver. But before we get to comments, I just want to say, I know I had a slip of the tongue about 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago. My bad, everyone. It's live television. It's Friday. I've seen all your text and zip whip and on social media in the last few minutes. So I appreciate the fun here on a Friday. My bad, though, guys. All right, do we have some quick comments? We do. Hashtag the 208. Love your story about Dillon and his book, A Sweet Story. We need more of those. I agree. Congratulations to Dillon. Banner week. This one says, hashtag 208. Dillon is my hero. That is from Kim. We got one more, Danny. Yes, the story about Dillon is the best story this week. I think they should have copies made. I'd buy a few. What a great kid. Yeah, I'd buy a copy, too. And we'll let you know if he puts them up for sale. For now, though, we will step away. The 208 returns on your Monday.